Welcome back, everyone. So today's Wednesday. Today was actually a really good day. Thank you so much for coming in to watch this. We got a couple of things to go over. There's not much news as far as miners are concerned today. So we'll just take a look at, obviously, we got 28 days left before the halving event. We're getting much closer to it. Bitcoin had a fantastic day today. Miners had a fantastic day today. But we'll take a look at what is the current break-even price for Bitcoin after the halving for the miners to basically break even after all that, after having all expenses paid and everything. We'll look at that, and we'll also take a look at first is an email from, email communication that I had with Jason Les from Riot. We'll get into some of the details. He actually provided some responses to questions that I had for him. So we'll go through all that, and then we'll get into Q&A at the end, so save your questions for the end. But as always, you guys know the drill here. This is not financial advice for entertainment only. Please do your own research and invest in the following coins and companies for full disclosure, and corrections will be posted to Discord, YouTube, Twitter, if there are any mistakes that I made. And also, if you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out tremendously. So let's get into first what's going on with here with the miners, Bitcoin and else. We also had Papa Powell speak today about the FOMC meeting. They're basically holding the position where it's at right now as far as interest rates, which was great. And obviously things started to pump even harder after he spoke. So basically we'll get maybe another 3 sets of rate cuts this year sometime, probably maybe towards like the half, towards the end, maybe somewhere around there, but we'll get possibly 3 rate cuts, and they're just keeping an eye on it. So that was obviously dovish and bullish for the market. So that's why we saw Bitcoin bounce really hard today, as well as the miners. So that was great news to see. Bitcoin basically retracted all of the losses that we had yesterday. So it was up today nicely. It was up, what was it up? 9.61%. A really good day on Bitcoin. It closed at 67,156. Miners had an even better day here. So that was nice to see as well. And then we'll see where Bitcoin continues to go up. We did bounce off the 61,000 support here, which is also nice to see that we came down. We bounced off of it. That's really good, kind of what we wanted to see. We were thinking we might come down to 59. I think 59 now is maybe possibly out of the question here, but we'll see. I don't think we're going to come back down here for maybe a while, but anything can change with Bitcoin. We get one FUD story or something like that, and it could crash quickly. So we'll keep an eye on it, obviously. But the miners here, miners had a fantastic day. ANY was up 12.5%. Argo was up 17.3%. BitDigital was up 18.2%. BitDeer 12.2%. Bitfarms 11%. Cypher up almost 11%. Cleanspark up 22, almost 23%. CORZ was up 8.4%. Digihost 4.2%. DMG up 6.7%. Hive was up 8.4%. Hut 8 up 12%. Iris Energy up 26%. It's finally getting some love here, which is nice to see. This is one of the ones that I've been kind of trying to get more into it. It's starting to pump away from me again. I did buy some more Bitfarms stock yesterday, and I'll see if I can maybe buy some more IREN later on this week if it doesn't run away from me, but I'll still probably buy some more of that one. Marathon was up 16% today. Mawson up 7.3%. Riot up 11.8%. Stronghold was up 10.7%. And then Wolf had a fantastic day. It was up 35.4%. That one finally I think is getting also some love with the release of their financial results. And then obviously investors seeing that they are able to pay down their debt. So far, obviously they still have some debt left to pay down. But I think once they get that all figured out, they'll be in a much better position going forward. And so will the stock. So like I said, it was just a fantastic day. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We get those kind of days every once in a while where things go up double digits. And those are always nice to see. But then we also have a bunch of days where they're in the red and it's just like a slow bleed, like you've seen on a lot of these guys here from basically February going down and down. It's like, just can't seem to get a win out of them. But then we have days like this and it just kind of all makes up for it. And in the long run, we get a lot more days like this, I think. We're going to be in a really good shape going forward. So that is it for the market and Bitcoin, miners, all that. Let's take a look at my communication here with Jason Les from Riot really quick. So last week, they sent me an email inviting me for a tour of their new Corsicana facility. And this is my response to their email there. So I said, thank you so much for the invite and the opportunity to view your operations along with the meeting, you and your team. I must however politely decline as it would be against my own principles. So the reason I stated that is because they were offering to pay basically travel accommodations, airfare, things like that, hotel stays. And that would be, like I said, against my own principles because I could not take their money and do it in good faith where I could also then provide unbiased results. So I never do that. I never take any money from any of the miners or anything like that. I don't get paid by them. And that way I can bash them when they need to be bashed and praise them when they need to be bashed. Okay. So that's kind of my principles there. I stand by those. And then I stated I am very grateful for being considered, which I was, right? It's a great honor to be included in that. I greatly appreciated your openness about some of the issues that have been plaguing your current facility in the interview with Bryce and Anthony. And so did a lot of investors that have watched the interview, which I believe they did, right? That was a great interview, so I kudos to those guys for doing it, and for Jason for being open and honest about it. So that was very nice. For that reason, I'd like for you and your team to consider maybe doing a live YouTube or Twitter Spaces event for investors so that they may ask questions, right? I thought that might be kind of good if they could do that. Doesn't seem like they want to do that though, but I think it would be good nonetheless because it gets them out in front of investors. Plus, they haven't had, the conference calls after earnings, right? They haven't had that like in almost a year, I think some of you guys are saying. So it would be nice to get out there and be open with the public and investors and things like that. Okay, that was my thoughts on it. I believe that would have more of an impact than having a couple of YouTube analysts visiting your new site. I do think showcasing the new facility is important, and investors really want to know that the new facility will operate with a greater uptime and efficiency. If you could point out what has been done to increase uptime and efficiency, that would be a huge benefit, which I think it would be, right? Have they learned their lessons from what happened with their Rockdale facility and the winter storm that they had, where they had the immersion cooling miners down for X period of months, right? Almost 11, 12 months or something like that. If they learned from that, what have they done to do it? And I did ask those questions here. Some of the questions that are of concern from investors right now are how much power is available to you with or without PPA? Basically, can you operate for a full month without major curtailment? And I think I may have phrased that question incorrectly. What I really wanted to know was on their new facility, the Corsicana facility, that question there. And I think Jason answered that in basically what they're running right now. But you'll see that down below. Can your new facility have a greater uptime and efficiency percentage, i.e. closer to 90% uptime? Have steps been taken to prevent from having similar issues as witnessed last year after the storm with the immersion cooling operations? Anything you can provide to subside the concerns of investors would be beneficial. And then here's Jason's response here. He responded to me on Monday, I believe it was. So he stated, understand your position. So he's referring obviously to my own principles, which I appreciate. At any rate, we'll have a lot of material for the public coming out about Corsicana and its operational improvements as the site scales up over the coming months. So that's great news there, right? They need to be more open, more forward, more out there with investors and saying, here's what we're doing. This is what's going on. You know, these are the benefits of our immersion cooling. Here's all the stuff that's going on right now and where we're taking that all forward. So that is good to see that they are going to be doing it. I wish they would kind of scale that up more quickly, but we'll see. With regards to your questions, he states, and here are the questions: how much power is available to you with or without PPA? Basically, can you operate a full month without major curtailment? So like I said, I think I maybe phrased this wrong for him. I should have asked about Corsicana facility in general, and specifically on that one. He states here the following: curtailment is solely under our control. We have no obligations to curtail that we do not volunteer. We are typically only curtailing when the market price of power exceeds the break-even cost of mining, like any rational Bitcoin miner would, which I agree, right? I mean, if their break-even price is, let's say, 8 cents, 10 cents, whatever it might be, if it's above that, it doesn't make any sense to run it at that point, and you're basically better off selling back into the grid. The key advantage of Riot is with our 345 megawatt of fixed power blocks, we are financially benefiting when we curtail at high power prices, which is correct, which is what we've seen, and which is what he has explained. And then high power prices are primarily during the summer, which is why you see most of our power curtailment credits earned during Q3 of each year, right? Which we saw obviously this past year as well, where they had over 30 million in power credits at that point. In summary, yes, we can operate for a full month without curtailment, provided A, ERCOT does not enter emergency conditions that we would respond to, rare, or B, the spot price of power does not exceed the break-even cost to mine for a meaningful period of time. If B were to occur, we would either curtail our load above 345 megawatts or curtail our entire load to earn power credits. And that's kind of what we're seeing. So, like I said, I think I should have probably phrased that question a little bit better towards the Corsicana facility, because that's what we really want to know is how much power can they get over there? Do they have a PPA in that one as well? So that's my fault there. Jason has obviously responded the way he normally would based on their current facilities and things like that. Okay, so that's my bet on that. Can your new facility have greater uptime and efficiency percentages, i.e. closer to 99% uptime? This is the question that I had for him. While we are not able to guide towards a specific uptime at this time, we are confident it will perform significantly better. Our self-mining operations at Rockdale are primarily air-cooled, and we have a number of initiatives underway to improve efficiency there. most notably our recent announcement of the upgrade in miners, which is true, that we are very focused on. So that's very good news there, right? They're getting rid of some of the less efficient miners, some of the ones that are having issues with, changing those out, so that's good. The new Corsicana facility, on the other hand, will be entirely immersion cooled, which is very helpful in mitigating the heat from the high ambient temperatures. Further, the immersion cooling infrastructure we are using at Corsicana is significantly improved upon from the design used in Rockdale's immersion cooling buildings. So that's good news too there, right? We really don't want to see them having issues like they did before. And then here's the last question of it all. So have steps been taken to prevent from having similar issues as witnessed last year after the storm with the immersion cooling operations? He states, yes, we implemented a number of measures to prevent any future freeze damage on immersion cooling infrastructure. It's worth noting that the facility again experienced freeze conditions at this past winter, and our new measures protected the equipment. We are confident we are well protected now. So that's great to hear as well, right? That was obviously one of my big concerns there is, have they learned from their mistakes at that point? And it looks like they did. They put in measures to remedy those things in the future, which is also good to see. So I just wanted to say thank you to Jason for taking the time, obviously, to respond to this, and obviously for the invite as well. Greatly appreciate that. And would love to possibly get him on like a Twitter Spaces sometime as well, to kind of come in there and have people asking questions as well from the investors and all that stuff. So again, thank you for that. And let's take a look at the miners here as far as what is their break even on it. So, but I wanted to provide this to you guys so that way it's all out in the open. And I did ask Jason if I could provide this to you guys, and he said yes. So thank you for that as well. Okay, looking at it here, the monthly break-even estimates from Q4 results, and we have a lot of those already now. We are still missing a couple of them. This is all cash expenses, not including power credits, and it also includes share-based compensation as well, because a lot of the miners include that in their G&A figures. They don't separate it out that easily. You have to go look through it, and I didn't do that. I just included that. The miners that separate it out, I included that in there as well. Okay, so that's how that's being figured out right now. The ones that are here in bold are the ones that have already reported their Q4 numbers. The ones that are just regular letters are the ones that are still missing. So there's 5 that are missing. Argo, Bitdeer, Digihost, Hut8, and Mawson are still absent as far as their Q4 results. Once we get those, I'll do this again. And I'm hoping we'll get those in the next maybe week or two. I believe Hut8 is supposed to do those next week. And then we're still waiting, obviously, on a couple other ones here as well. And I think Bitdeer already did theirs, but I'm just waiting on the 10K filing for that. So I'll double check that again if it hasn't come through. I didn't check today, I forgot. But here's what we're looking at. We're looking at the quarterly expenses based on those. So the ones that are not bold are from Q3 numbers. So remember that, okay? And then we're looking at their energy expenses from that as well. And then we're trying to figure out what their monthly expense on average is at that point. BTC mined in that quarter as well, right? We're using that to figure out what is their cost per Bitcoin energy, all that stuff up here. And then I'm also looking at their last 3 months of uptime. So I'm basically taking December, January, and February production numbers for them, and then dividing that by, I think it's 91 days that were between those 3 months. So we're trying to get an uptime percentage on that. And that's what I'm using here to then look at their current quarter hash rate, or for February is where they ended up actually, their current installed hash rate or operating hash rate, whichever way you want to look at it. And then taking that, multiplying it times the uptime to figure out what is the cost, and then what is it going to be cost to mine Bitcoin after that. Okay, so we do that for everybody here. And when we come back over here, we're looking at Bitcoin right now about 67,500. It's right around there, right? And then the network hash rate right now is about 575 exahash on average, like 30-day moving average. So that's kind of what I'm using here. So we could possibly bump that up a little bit here to maybe 585, maybe 590 when the halving does happen. And we'll go with those numbers here. So at this point, you can see that we got a couple miners that are in the green here. We got Bitdeer in the green here. We got Cleanspark in the green, and we have also TeraWolf in the green right now if things stayed this way. All right. Going down here, we can see the chart for everybody here. I don't think I got any more charts. Nope. But you can see here right now, at this point in time, it looks like Cleanspark would be the lowest as far as their break even, right? So including all the costs, cash costs. We're not including depreciation in here or anything like that. We're just looking at strictly cash costs and interest expenses if they have them. Cleanspark came in basically number 1 with 62,000, having Bitcoin to be at that price in order for them to break even. Then you would have possibly Bitdeer at 64,000. Then you got TeraWolf at 66,000 as well. And then we're going into the 70,000 mark here, which is going to be Hut8 probably at 70,000, DMG at 71,000. Then you got Core at 75,000 and Argo at 76,000 currently, right? Argo's from Q3 though. Who else here is in the next 80s here from the 80s? Let me see if I can maybe run this. Let's try. Let's see, Bitcoin break even. Here we go. Let's see if we can do this. Sort descending. Let's see if that's not going to mess my numbers up. Sort ascending. Okay, there we go. That makes it a little bit easier to figure out. So we got HUT 8, DMG, Core at 75, Argo at 76, Cypher at 83, Bitfarms at 86, Riot at 87, Digihost at 90, Stronghold at 90 also, Iris at 91, Hive at 91, Marathon at 95, Sphere at 131, BitDigital 133, and Mawson at 154. Now for some of these guys, they include a bunch of crap into their Q4 numbers. One of the ones that I saw that for was, who was that for? I think it was for, gosh, who was that for? Let's just look through it. I think it was, who was it that had 24 compared, oh, BitDigital. That's what I think it was. So if we look at that one here, or 12. So in Q4, their general administrative expenses was 12.2 million. For Q3, it was only 4.8. That's like a 2.5x increase in just that. So I think that's based on bonuses being added into it, a lot of it, and then also the share-based compensation being added to it a lot as well. That's going to obviously have a big impact on their Bitcoin price break-even point at that point. So the numbers are where they are based on Q4 or Q3 numbers for them. And if they included a bunch of stuff in there, it's going to be reflected in those numbers as well. So I was kind of debating whether or not I should use like the average of the last 4 quarters for them, just to see what the average would be. And let me know if you guys think that I should do that. Maybe that's going to be more appropriate for going forward. Because obviously I don't think that they're going to be at, for Q1 numbers, that high again. Because like I said, it's the end of the fiscal year. They're putting a bunch of crap in there. But that's one of them that I saw. Which one else was in here? I think Marathon was also one of those that added quite a bit in there as well. If we look at Marathon's numbers, yeah, 39 million compared to 20 million, right? So a lot of stuff being added in there as well. So that's kind of what we're dealing with here right now, at least, on it. And if Bitcoin goes up, it's going to obviously have a huge impact. And I don't know if the network hash rate is going to actually go down into the halving or after the halving event, because Bitcoin price staying up is going to make some of these older miners still profitable at that point. The big thing with Mawson here, why it's up so high, Mawson, if we look at that one, where's Mawson? Right here, right? Their numbers here are general administrative. I'm using the percentage only for their self-mining, so it doesn't include hosting for these guys, for any of them also. So that's not being included here. So the hosting might help a little bit here. But the big thing for them was, let me see here, general administrative, was 3.6 calculated. Share-based compensation was in there as well. And there was something else I thought I saw. Nope, that was not it. That was just basically what I was doing on here. But I was trying to figure out basically what is the percentage of self-mining compared to the total revenue. Okay, on that one. And, oh, that's what I was going to show on Mawson. Mawson has older miners, 90 terahash, 85 terahash miners, right? That's possibly the reason why it's going to be needing to have a higher, higher Bitcoin price in order to break even on those, especially as the network hash rate goes up. So that's Mawson there. I was a little bit surprised by TeraWulf. TeraWulf, we're including also their interest expense, which is pretty high here on it, at 9.2 million for the Q4 numbers, which should come down in Q1 as well, because they paid down, I believe it was, they paid down in Q1 about 40 million of that as well. So that should be lower for them. But even with that, their numbers came in really good here for them. So they're doing all the right things here. They're at 66,000, right? So now if we include Bitcoin going up to, let's say Bitcoin goes up to 75,000 or something like that, we start seeing a couple more miners here being positive. We still got Cleanspark, BitDeer, TeraWulf, HUT 8, DMG potentially being positive. HUT 8, I was also trying to figure out on that one. That one's still, a lot of the data that we have on that is with them being before the merger. So that might be off for it until we get the Q4 numbers for them with the 2 companies being merged, USBTC and HUT 8 as well. Because here I'm using the numbers that they have as far as their hash rate right now is at like 7 something, but I'm using their uptime at 84%. So that's kind of what their operating hash rate is. Come having event right now, and then before then they were at like 2 point something exahash or something like that, and even less because they were not running a lot of those machines, so they were even less efficient at that point. So that's why I think this number might be a little bit off for Hot 8. But yeah, once I get the numbers for Q4, we'll get this updated and we'll actually see where things stand at that point. Other than that, some of the other miners obviously going to need Bitcoin much higher. You can see how that kind of goes as Bitcoin price goes up at 90,000, and then things look a lot better. So the real thing is for miners to install as much hash rate as they can before the halving event. That obviously helps out. That's what helped out Cleanspark here recently, is them getting to approximately, well, they're getting to 16 exahash right now, and possibly getting to like 17 exahash within the next couple of weeks before the halving event. That's going to help them out. That's what's really helped them out get to a pretty low number. Plus their uptime is really good. 98% uptime over the last 3 months that I've been able to calculate. So that's kind of where we stand on those things. Okay. Big thing, like I said, cut costs into the halving event as much as you can, grow your hash rate, and be as lean as possible, right? Have the most efficient miners and things like that. But that is it. So let's get into Q&A here, see if you guys have any questions on this or any other topics, and we'll call it a day. Should be a pretty good one today. Okay, so get your questions ready. I'm going to get my page set up here to where I can do the Q&A. And let me scroll over. Perfect. So if you guys have any questions, bring those up now. And I'm delayed by like 15 seconds, 20 seconds, something like that, before I actually see the questions pop up. Okay. You guys don't have any questions? Well, that's good. That's going to make it an easy day for me today. Let's see. I'm trying to see if I can find any questions up here, or if I missed anything in the chat. I don't see any questions in the chat. Let's see. Yeah, you guys don't have any questions. Wow. Okay, well, this is going to be a boring 9 minutes with me just twiddling my thumbs. Okay. Let's see. So I see something pop up. All right, finally getting questions. So is Wolf a buy after their last earnings report? I think they're more likelihood of a buy, yes. The earnings was good. Looking at their break even right now looks pretty good as well. So that's very beneficial to them, I think. And if they can just continue to pay down the debt and restructure, which I believe they're going to do one way or another, I think it's going to be in a much better position at that point. They're really undervalued right now from where they really should be, and that's only because of the debt. So not financial advice. Do your own research on it as well. Let's see here. Your thoughts on BTB, Bit Digital for the next 12 months and long term. I want to see how they are doing with their AI stuff, right? They're supposed to double their hash rate to about 6 exahash by the end of the year, so that's good. So they're at least doubling that. But the real question there is, right, they're getting 50 million in revenue for AI. I want to see what the profit margin is like. Is it 15%? Is it 50%? Is it what's the profit margin like on it? And that will tell us exactly kind of where we want to see possibly where the stock could possibly be at that point. So it's going to be interesting. We should get that information from like the first quarter results, which will be out in about 4 to 6 weeks, I'm guessing, at that point. Let's see. Cleanspark price prediction, depending on the time frame, right? I think my target is still like $70 for them, but that's a very conservative number. We could go much higher on it because when we get into the FOMO and everything else, we can start ripping higher. We could go much higher on those guys. Some people are saying, Cleanspark could go to like 120. It might, right? Depends all on how well they can execute on getting to 32 exahash, how Bitcoin price does, where the network hash rate is at. Those things all really do play a part into it. Hi Seb, how do we look out for mempools of Cleanspark? Well, they're not in any mempools. Like Marathon is where you can see them. The only thing you can do is find on Twitter somebody that has an address for Cleanspark, and you can kind of see there as far as what they're getting added into it. What they do is usually get it from the pool that they're on, and then they move it over to someplace else. But you can actually see what they're actually getting from the pool that way. Let's see. Do you think the small miners like DMG and Digihost will survive the halving? I think, let me see, I think I saw it on one of the other ones. Let's see, where's DMG? I think will be fine. Digihost might be a little bit more of a challenge there based on the numbers that I'm seeing right now for them, but we're still waiting on Digihost to report their Q4 numbers. I'll get a better feel on them once they do report. Question. At minimum, BTC price must go up to average miner cost or the system does not work. Maybe not all at once, but inevitable. At a minimum, BTC price might go up. Yep. To average miner cost or the system does not work. Maybe not all at once, but inevitable. Bitcoin price usually goes up in the bull runs anyways. Plus, we're seeing more transaction fees being added. Not so much this month, but in prior months we saw that. We may see that also after the halving event. That also helps out. But yes, generally, you either need to have the Bitcoin price go up or miners start shutting down, and the less efficient ones will shut down, decreasing the network hash rate, which then makes the other miners more profitable at that point. So there's definitely a lot of different levers that can be pulled on Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. Let's see. Do you think you influenced the Wolf rally after your positive report of yesterday? No, I hope it's not me. I hope it's just investors being smart and doing due diligence on it. But they obviously did a nice job with the results, so, and paying down the debt, all that stuff. So it's all on them. And I think it's just maybe time that investors are kind of waking up to them maybe a little bit as well. Let's see. Cypher or Wolf or IREN. If we're looking at growth, I would go with IREN. IREN's going to be going to 20 exahash. Cypher's going to be growing too, but Cypher has options to buy more miners this year if they can build out facilities. Otherwise, it's going to be in 2025. If we're looking at Wolf, Wolf is also going to be growing, but I don't think as much as IREN right now. So I would go with IREN based on that information. Let's see. Price predictions for miners like IREN, Bitfarms, Wolf with BTC at 100, 150,000. I mean, basically you're looking at 2x from here, 2 to 3x roughly. If that's the case, you can say at minimum the miner should be at least 6x. At that point, right? So kind of look at that. Some miners will do a little bit better depending on their growth. If they hodl a little bit as well, that's going to help out. But that's kind of what I would kind of estimate on, right, on that. And it also depends on dilution, how much they actually dilute in the next 6 months or so. That's a good way to kind of look at it. Cleanspark price prediction in 2024, 2025, like I said, $70 to $120 kind of is where I'm guessing $70 was my price target for them for a while now. It still is. But that's very conservative, like I said. Some people are saying 120, maybe even more. It all depends on the bull run. Let's see here. Do you think the worst performing miners still get bought this halving? I don't know. That is obviously a lot more challenging because Bitcoin price is much higher, where the smaller miners, or the worst performing miners, are still possibly going to be profitable at that point. So there's not going to be that much pain in the market for them to shut down. And if they were to shut down, then it would be more lucrative for the miners that are doing really well, that could buy out possibly their facilities or things like that, but they obviously don't want to buy the debt. So it's going to be interesting. Let's see. Any plans to add AI data center revenue as this evolves this year? Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I mean, it obviously becomes a large portion of it, or depending on the profit margins. If the profit margins are greater than like 15 or 20%, yeah, I'll probably add it in there because it does make sense, right? It's going to improve their revenue, which obviously is then drives my estimates for them. So yeah, we'll definitely include it in there. Why is Bitfarm lagging the other miners? Fear of dilution, I think, is the main one, right? They have a 375 million ATM to grow to 21 exahash. I think that's the fear there right now with them. We saw that with IREN, we saw with Cypher, we saw with other miners as well. And that's just part of the cycle. Once that gets through there, things should be a lot better for them. But sometimes it takes time. What do you think of SDIG? SDIG, I like SDIG, what they're doing, or Stronghold, what they're doing with the spent coal and how they're cleaning up the land sites and all that. I love that. The only thing I don't like about them is their operations, their cost of operations. Those are, in the past, they've been pretty high. Hopefully with the carbon capture units they have in place now, they'll get some money for that. Maybe that'll offset some of it where they can be profitable. Right now, they weren't profitable on it. So that's kind of the way I look at Stronghold. Let's see. Does Bitfarm current price undervalued? Yeah, it's undervalued right now. So are a couple other miners. IREN was undervalued. Wolf was undervalued. We're still undervalued at that point. Cypher as well. Let's see. What percentage of your miner holdings do you plan to hold through the next halving in 2028? None. Either later on this year or next year, I'll be out completely on the miners unless things really change, where Bitcoin's going, still in the upwards direction. We don't have that bear cycle where we had in the past, where we dropped down, 70, 80% on Bitcoin and like 80, 90% on the miners. If that doesn't happen, I may sell half, but we'll have to keep an eye on it. And then maybe I'll keep some. But if things go as planned, I will probably sell all of them. But it all depends. Let's see. Do you think the miners will 5 to 10x by the end of 24 if Bitcoin hits a high by the end of the year? Yeah, it's possible. I mean, the miners can rally really, really quick. So if you just think that Bitcoin goes up 2 or 3x from here, the miners could do 3 on top of that. So you're looking at maybe 6 to 9x on top of it just easily. And then some of the miners that are doing really well, they could be 10x. But it all depends on where Bitcoin goes. Let's see. Powell having relaunched the market today, do you think miners will correct again before halving or after? We still might have a little correction here and there, right? We're not going to be going up straight all the time. So if we have a 10% pullback or a 15% pullback on some of these things after they go up quite a bit, I think that's healthy. And that's kind of what I would expect. Last cycle, we saw the same thing, right? Bitcoin going up, down, up, down, but it's continuing to go up. So we'll see that this time around again, I think, which obviously, if you're a long-term investor, it's not a problem. If you're in the markets trying to trade them, that's obviously a little bit more challenging. But I do think that's going to possibly happen. Let's see here. How high do you think Riot can run in this bull market? It can definitely run if they figure out their issues and get their production and uptime efficiency improved. They definitely have the growth plan to do much better, but just up to them, right? And Bitcoin going up, I think they can do really well as well. Possibly, like I said, above $60, $70 or more. All right, but really need to see their uptime get improved. Let's see. Why exactly are Grayscale selling their Bitcoin? It's the GBTC Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, I believe, is what you're referring to. And what happens there is people are moving from that to the ETFs, basically, is what happens. So when people sell out of the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, they have to sell it, and then that's why, really. Why do you think Cleanspark spiked up 22.8% today? Green bar almost the entire move, low to high last few weeks in one day. Well, Cleanspark is like one of the best performers here that we've seen in the last year, pretty much, right? It's up huge. It's like up over 500%, I think, in the last year. And then also getting to 16 exahash, potentially getting to 17 exahash, and then 20 exahash by the end of the first half of this year. And then their production is like tied with Marathon right now as far as Bitcoin, if not a little bit above them, depending on when you look at it and the numbers. But they're really close to Marathon's production, which is at like 28 exahash, right? So I think that's why they're pumping pretty good here today. Why do you think IREN went up huge today? Possibly 2 reasons. I think people are finally starting to notice them maybe. And the other reason might be because maybe they're done with the ATM, right? If they stopped selling into the market, that ATM, that maybe is what's causing it. Could be, right? So there's 2 things that are possible there. Okay, what will be the trend on Bitcoin ASIC miners price cost at next phase of difficulty will cost 2 to 3x? I think it just all depends on demand, right? We're seeing a lot of miners already pre-buy at like $14, $16 per terahash on that. So I don't know how much demand is going to be going into once Bitcoin starts really going up. I think prices on ASICs will increase, but I don't know if we're going to see like the same prices we saw before where they were like $80 to $100 a terahash, right? Where miners were just fighting over those, trying to get those in the bull run. I think miners have learned their lesson that it's not beneficial to them to buy at those high prices. So it might be a different cycle this time. Let's see. What are your thoughts on Mara uptime? Abysmal, right? We've talked about this at length on here and on Twitter Spaces. It's just unfortunate because they have such huge potential and they're failing on it, right? So don't know what's going on there exactly. They're saying it's infrastructure issues and power lines and connections and things like that. Whatever it is, they got to get it fixed because that's ridiculous the way that they're operating right now. Next question. Do you think we will get another pullback before having to buy miners? Today was too risky to enter buy on Fed meeting day. Yeah, today, I mean, obviously it was risky, but it obviously paid off to some of those that did buy it. But I think you might still get a little bit of pullbacks here and there. We're still 29 days or 28 days away from the halving event. I think it's still possible. Dollar cost averaging on the dips, those are buying opportunities, like I said before. I always buy on the dips. I bought this past week. Plan to do it some more later on as well. Let's see here. Can you send me the spreadsheet? Yep, sign up for Patreon. You got the spreadsheet. What's your take on Cypher? I missed that first part. Cypher? The big thing with Cypher is obviously the Bitfury shares that were held by them. That's kind of gone away. I think that's kind of helping out things. And then also they provided pretty good numbers as well from the Q4 results. That's what's driving the stock right now. It's had a nice rally here in the last, was it 3-4 days or so? So that's nice to see as well. They're obviously growing, which is good to see as well. But that's kind of what's going on with Cypher. Let's see here. Question, at what price of Bitcoin you will start your exit strategy, DCing out? Tough question. I think right now my thinking is right around 100,000, maybe a little bit more than that, but that's kind of, I'll take like 5% off, and I'll take 5% off or 2% off, something like that. I'll see how things go. See where everything is on the charts, where we are in the grand scheme of things as far as being after the halving cycle. That will tell us a little bit as well. We could be having a much quicker cycle this time around where we Bitcoin reaches the all-time high within, say, 6 to 9 months instead of the 12 to 18 months that we're used to. We'll have to kind of see how things go there. Will any survive the halving? That's a tough question. They do have some cash on hand right now, but they're not growing. Their miners are the 100 terahash miners as well, and they're also paying themselves pretty well. So it's going to be tough for them, depending where Bitcoin goes. And we'll do some numbers on that as well to see what their actual figures will be like once we get Q4 results for them, I believe. Let's see. Will you sell your Bitcoin at the cycle top? Nope. I'm waiting for Bitcoin to reach 1 million. At that point, then I'll think about selling it. But right now, it's basically my retirement account, locked up for another 5 to 10 years or until whenever that happens, when Bitcoin reaches 1 million maybe. But that's kind of what I'm doing there. I don't plan on selling it unless I'm really forced to it for whatever reasons, family issues, health issues, whatever it could be. Then I'll think about it. Let's see. Question, do you have any idea how many blocks on average Cleanspark mines per month? Well, just take a look at their numbers that they have, what they report, and divide it roughly by 6.25, and that's kind of what you're getting as far as blocks on average, right? Unless months that have a lot of transaction fees, like in December, January, and in I think November as well, we had quite a bit there. Those are going to offset that a little bit because they're getting the more BTC being added to it, but on average you can kind of figure that out. Let's see here. Can Riot pass Mar in price? Only if they start performing really well and they get to their 38, I think, exahash or 40 exahash before Marathon gets to their top by the end of 2025. Maybe at that point, maybe. It also depends where Bitcoin goes. Let's see. Let's see. Do you know or could you find out mining pool each miner are in so we could track blocks mined? A lot of the miners are using, what's that big one there? Not Luxxor, the other one. I'm drawing a blank here. But it's hard to find out. Those don't separate it out per miner. You get the total exahash that the pool is using. So it's not easy to do. The best thing you can do is maybe try to figure out what address is, Bitcoin address is the miner's using, right? And I think we figured out a couple of them. I think Riot's been figured out. Potentially Marathon has been figured out as well. Cleanspark, I think they maybe found Bitfarms also. There might be other ones. But check around on Twitter and in other places. Some people will provide that to you. Thoughts on CCPUF? Don't know who they are. Don't track them. Let's see. Do you think some of the miners are lagging? Yes. There's always some that are lagging for one reason or another. Dilution, not the growth that they have, or not getting the growth that they should have. So yeah, they do lag sometimes. I am down 50% from my initial investment 4 months ago. I am starting to feel the fist in, well, I can't say that word. But basically, yeah, a lot of people are in the same spot right now, but towards the top, right? hold on for a little bit longer and you'll be in a much better place. Let's see. Which miner do you think will take the first spot from Cleanspark? Depending on which metrics you're looking at. Are you looking at efficiencies, uptime, things like that? There's a couple that are obviously vying for that. If you look at all the things, growth, efficiency, uptime, HODL, and things like that, it's going to be tough to beat them on all those things, and we track them on the monthly and the quarterly, and Cleanspark has been doing really well over the last 12 months. They've averaged to be in the top spot, followed by, like, who else was in there? IREN, I think Marathon was kind of close to them as well in some of the spots. So they're definitely operating on like 12 cylinders, where some of the other mines are operating at like 11 or 10 cylinders when it comes to all those things. What else do we have here? I already talked about Annie. Let's see here. I need an explanation regarding CORZ warrants. Please talk a little to a 6th grader. The best thing you can do is check out Anthony Power on Twitter. He had an interview, and check out Bryce's and Anthony's video with Core on it. They did a great job talking to, gosh, I can't remember the guy's name now. Adam Sullivan, I believe is his name, from Core, the CEO there. He did a great explanation on it, and then Anthony also provided a great explanation on it on Twitter. So see if you can find that, or somebody can provide that to you. That'd be great. Okay, when you say that BTC goes up 2 to 3x, that means miners could go up 5 to 6x. Is that based on how they rose together in previous runs, or on your forecasted valuation based on profitability and revenue? Based on previous runs, right? Previous runs, we've seen Bitcoin go up 2 to 3x, miners go up 6, 9, 10x, something like that, depending on the miners. Some miners obviously do better. Some don't do as well. It just all depends on the miner that's efficient, growing well, operating well, executing well. All those things go into play as far as what their multiple is compared to Bitcoin. Hello there. What is your take on any Sphere 3D? How high can it go? I don't know if it can go much higher, but obviously Bitcoin going up, it can obviously raise those miners up as well, some of the smaller ones. Let's see. CORZ. What do you think of CORZ? I like CORZ. The only thing I'm waiting for is their financial results. Right now, they're probably like they're not the biggest miner, but they're mining the most Bitcoin right now. Right, with Marathon having issues, they're the top one here as far as monthly operations as for Bitcoin is concerned. Let's see here. Thank you so much on that one. Let's see here. Do you agree with Riot's upgrade today versus how much BTC Mar has, and Prowl is the best miner in the market now? Marathon is not the best miner right now because they have operational issues. BTC, obviously, they bought 4,000 BTC back in, gosh, when was that? 2020, I think they bought those, or maybe even before that. And then they have obviously been growing well, but their operations kind of are bad. Let's see. How did you get so good using Excel spreadsheets and updating all those data fields? Your data is why I paid for services. Great job for you do for the viewers. Thank you so much. And it's just, you learn. YouTube is a great resource to learn all those things. And I've been using Excel since I was, 16 years old for school and everything else. So I've been using it for a long time. But it was a challenge moving over from Excel to numbers for Apple. I found Apple numbers to be actually much better suited for this type of environment where you have multiple tables and things like that on one page. Excel is much harder to do that. So I enjoy Apple numbers much more. Let's see. Any recommendations on self-custody for BTC? I currently use Ledger. Growing concerns as price appreciates. I use Ledger too. I've used it since 2017. Never had issues with it. Obviously, you keep your passkeys and passwords all secure, and you'll be fine there. But growing concerns as price appreciates. So I guess your growing concern as BTC price appreciates, right? That it might be hacked or something like that. As long as you don't give it to people, you should be fine. Keep it in a safe place. All right, don't let people get it. Let's see. What is Riot? what is Riot going to do with all the cash that they raised? They're growing. They're building out Corsicana. They need the cash for that, basically. Has CORZ sold the debt yet? No, they do have the warrants, which would help with the debt there. And again, check out Anthony's and Bryce's video on that. Great explanation on that from Adam, the CEO there, on it. Let's see. Could you explain why you hold Bitcoin forever but will sell the miners earlier? Sure. So Bitcoin, I got into Bitcoin in 2017. I tried trading it. I tried, trying to find the peaks at it, trying to sell then, trying to buy at the bottoms. That didn't work out for me. So I decided at that point, I'm just going to hold Bitcoin because I would have had actually more Bitcoin than I do now if I didn't do that. So I learned my lesson. I'm just going to hold Bitcoin. And the reason I'm holding Bitcoin because that will appreciate in the long term. So as you've seen over the last 12 years or so, Bitcoin has gone from basically zero to being $67,000 in value. I believe the same is going to continue on going forward. The miners, on the other hand, if we get another bear market, they're going to go back down 80, 90%. So it doesn't make any sense for me to hold it that long, right? Bitcoin is going to drop down also, but in the next, it'll keep going up higher in price, basically. Where the miners will have to dilute, things like that. They're going to have a harder time getting back to their all-time highs previously. That's the reason. Do you think DGHI will make it to the halving? Yes. Okay, I'm getting close to catching up on your guys' question here. Let's see. Can you put a list of Bitcoin miners or which letter they trade under, which are the top 5 miners since there are so many miners? Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of them. The ones that I cover, there's at least 18 of those, and there's probably another 10 or so that I don't cover because they either don't provide monthly operation updates or they're just really small, right? So there's a lot of them. But get on Twitter, get on other places, and you can find a bunch of them on here. I mean, you can see in my spreadsheets too that there's a bunch. Let's see here. Talked about this a little bit. Price target on Cleanspark. My conservative estimate is $70, right? But that's obviously very conservative. Could go definitely much higher than that. Okay, why did you choose to add Bitfarms instead of IREN? IREN is also available. Yes, IREN is also available, and I want to buy more into it. My cost average on Bitfarms, I have now 17,222 shares, I think, something like that. So I wanted to buy more because it's still so low, and I think it has maybe, that's just my thinking here, a little bit more upside because it's going to get to 21 exahash, whereas IREN right now is getting to 20 exahash. But the thing with IREN is it doesn't provide quarterly updates, and it doesn't hodl right now. So those are two things that are making it in my number 3 spot right now, whereas Bitfarms is my number 2 spot. So that's kind of why. But I do want to get more IREN as well. Let's see here. Hey Seb, what industry is your real life job in? What do you do? If you're comfortable letting us know. I'm a director of operations. I'll just leave it at that. Okay. So maybe by the end of this year, I'll be a VP. That's my goal, but we'll see if we get there. Let's see. Till what point during the coming weeks, months, should you continue to accumulate these mining stocks and then watch them grow? Good question there. I've been dollar cost averaging for 2 years because I didn't know where the bottom was going to be. So I started getting into the miners back in early 2022, like January. I started buying Cleanspark, Bitfarms at like $9 for Cleanspark. Bitfarms was like $5 something. And I just continued to buy down because I didn't know where the bottom was going to be. So I just wanted to get into them and just open up a position and grow that position over time. Right now, it depends on your average Bitcoin price or miner price, right? So if your average is below the current price, obviously you probably still want a dollar cost average in. If you believe it's going to go up 5 to 10x, right? It still makes sense then. And if your current price on the miner is lower than your average price, you definitely want a dollar cost average in because that will definitely help you get a much lower average cost, and that way will help you also make more money when it goes up. So it works both ways, I guess. Have I heard anything about IREN relocating to headquarters to the U.S.? I have not. But as their operations in their facility in the U.S. increase over 50% of the revenue, I think they're going to be forced to use quarterly results and follow the U.S. standards for reporting, I believe. So it'll happen one way or another. What's your favorite miner and why? Cleanspark. Cleanspark, the reason they're my favorite is because I started tracking them back in probably mid of 2021, right? Where they started mining in January of 2021 with like 100 petahash, and they got to like 2 or 4 exahash by the end of the year. So there was just a lot of growth there. They were selling Bitcoin at that time as Bitcoin price was going up. They were using those funds to grow while everybody else was like hodling and things like that. And they did the same thing in 2022 where they were just growing like crazy, putting out their targets where they're going to get to and actually exceeding those targets. So that's why I really liked Cleanspark and still do because of that. They fumbled the football twice, I think, on their targets as far as where they want to get to. They were delayed a little bit, not a big deal, but they're still one of the best ones here that I could find. Going on here. What do you think will have the big market cap end of the year mark? Cleanspark or Riot? I think Mara will still probably have the biggest market cap potentially, unless they really screw things up. At that point, I think Cleanspark will overtake them. But they really need to fumble, and they've been fumbling here for the last 3 months, basically, ever since January, February, now March also. So we might get a switch on that. Cleanspark might overtake them, but they still have a huge hodl position, which obviously benefits them greatly. So it'll be tough. See. Will Riot pass Mara in cap this year? For them to do that, they have to really fix their operations and be more efficient, higher uptime, things like that. If they can do that, maybe they can pass Mara. Let's see. Super chat. Thank you so much for the super chat. Kevin, thank you so much for the super chat. Let's see here. Riot or Cleanspark, I think Riot is extremely undervalued right now, but Cleanspark is staying hot. Yeah, Riot is undervalued for a reason. Their uptime and their efficiency and things like that, that's the reason why. If they can fix that, I think they're going to be in a much better place here. What country's best position for mining? Oh, gosh. That's a good question. You really want to take a look at, obviously, economic standards, political standards, things like that. Which countries are going to basically do a rug pull on the miners? I think the U.S. is obviously a good one. There's obviously some concern there from some of the party members about the energy usage and things like that, but I think those are overblown mostly. And depends on cost also, right? In the United States, you're getting like 4.5 on average cost per kilowatt hour. There's other countries like Argentina, Paraguay, where you can get costs a little bit lower. And then you also take into consideration some of the other ones that are out there. So it's tough to say. I mean, just really, it's based on risk and the reward potential from it. All right, let's see. All right. I think we pretty much covered all the questions here, guys. So thank you. Thank you so much for coming in. I think we went really long. We're almost going an hour here into this. But again, just want to say thank you. We got still, 28 days left until the halving event. Be patient. We may see dips, which I'm expecting. And I'm going to just continue dollar cost average into this market because I don't know where we're going to peak, where we're going to possibly top out. So as long as I can deploy capital into it, I will. That's the plan, at least for the time being, unless things really start to explode at that point. If I only see that I may have, a 2x or 1.5x possible return on something, I probably won't dollar cost average into it anymore. But it's kind of the way I'm looking at things. Other than that, 28 days away from the halving event. We're getting close. We'll see what happens there. We'll see what happens with Bitcoin. We're still very early. We got the spot Bitcoin ETFs. Everything is doing well, but you are going to have a bumpy ride along the way. So just be patient there. And as always, like I said before, access to my spreadsheets is through Patreon. The link is down in the description if you want access to those. It's $8 a month. I think it's a steal for the 100,000 data points that I have on all these guys. So take the opportunity if you want. And then once we get that filled up, it'll probably go up to like $10, I think, and we'll raise it up. All right, so that's it. Thank you so much again for coming in. Greatly appreciate you guys. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Hopefully tomorrow we'll get another nice green day. And hopefully you guys all become millionaires this time next year. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one.